So, as you know, the content input of marketing is now finished for this class, for this subject. It's about 1/3 and 2/3 consulting. So the next week we will spend with different topics all around the consulting branch, industry, consulting role and practice. And I divided the consulting lesson in 3 chapters. The consulting basics. We will start with it today about the definition, history, some facts and figures about the industry itself and the development of the industry. We will take a look at the areas of consulting. So in which kind of fields and areas is consulting working? And what are the expectations of customers to consulting business and tasks? And what are, in that term, the roles of a consultant? And we will take a look at the organization of consulting companies. I assume that we will take this and the lesson on Monday to finish the basics. And the next step, then we will take a look at the consulting practice. So what is the consulting process from sales to the implementation until the after sales and support? We will also take a look at the project management in general, and we will do kind of a small journey into different types of project management or different project management approaches. And then we will also see, it's not written here, the process analysis. Maybe we can integrate it into the tools and methods. How is the analysis in a consulting project working? How do we design new processes and requirements? And what kind of methods do consultants use? And then what about the controlling and the evaluation of consulting results and success? And probably the last lesson or last 2 lessons, we will also have kind of an outlook. So what about digital transformation and the impact on consulting practice? General trends like mega trends, about the changes in society, in a global society, in a society in general. So, and what impact do these developments in our society, like globalization, are having on the consulting industry? And also, what kind of values and role changes do we have to face probably in the future? So, that's the agenda for the next weeks until July. And as I already mentioned, we will start today with the consulting basics, or with one part of the consulting basics. And I brought some literature. As you can see, the one on the book on the left side, it's German. It's so a lot of my the content of the presentations within the next week are based on this book. I'm really sorry, but I didn't find the English version, and I did a lot of research, but I found other English books that do also have similar content. And this is Management Consulting, a guide for students. It's like a basic literature. Also the Management Consulting book, it's a lot bigger with a lot of recommendations, and they're talking also about values and everything. While this is a bit more compromised. And then there's also these basic principles of effective consulting, which I think might also be very interesting one. And you will find a lot of ideas that I took out of this book in these other books as well. So I would like to start with a bit of brainstorming, and I want to try with you the whiteboard function of Zoom. And my question is, what comes up in your mind if you think about consulting? So I think I have to stop that. And where is it? Whiteboard. So you all should now be able to write something down. You can just start with something. What comes up to your mind if you think about consulting? Okay, a happy smile. You just write down everything that comes up to your mind. Do you have any experience with the brand? Maybe you've seen some movies or you read something. Maybe you think about your project work. Okay, that comes up when you think about your project work. You can also enter text if you add a text field. Maybe that's easier if you want to write down words. So I'm sure you had some expectations when you... So maybe you had some expectations when you decided to do these classes, marketing and consulting. And yeah, now after some weeks with the idea of the project work, you maybe made some first experience that are linked to consulting work. Advisory capacity, ask for some. What else? So I will enter something too. Ooh. Suggest, help, what else? Maybe something about the brand and the industry, or maybe you do know some consulting companies. Yeah, E&Y. Let's add it to the board. EY. Okay, anything else in your minds about the consulting business? What about the income, about the payment? Do they earn a lot or not?
They always earn a lot.
For high income. And also high prices, huh? So the daily rates are pretty high. Roland Berger. What else? Okay, so then let's stop this here. It was a first pilot to work with the whiteboard, and we will follow up to this later or the next session. The question was, what comes up to your mind with the term consulting and the consulting industry? And you named some consulting companies like Roland Berger and Ernst & Young, and we have the idea that the consultants have a high income, and they raise pretty high daily rates, and what they do is they help and make suggestions. They companies ask for some advices, and consulting companies give advisory capacity. So I think that's quite important, and that's the basic view on consulting. So let's see what the literature says about consulting. So by Lippold, and he did himself a lot of research in the in studies and academic writings, and he created this definition because consulting is covering such a wide range of different tasks, fields, approaches, but what they all have in common is that it's a service. So they don't create a product, they offer a service. And it's a professional, order specific, that means client specific or customized service. It's not in total repetitive. They offer it to organizations or employees of organizations. So usually, in general, in this kind of definition, it's also a service B2B, yeah. So because it's called management consulting. Of course, you can also offer some consulting services to non-organizational people, like doing life coaching or something like that. But then you call it life coaching or therapy or something, or guidance. And if we're talking about consulting, it's mostly in the professional and organizational focused scene. It's temporary, that's also important. In some areas, and maybe some case studies, you realize that The consulting over 5 or 10 years is maybe not temporary, but then we are not talking about the general consulting definition. Then it's more kind of an in-house consulting, although the people are externals. The aim of this consulting assignment is to analyze and identify problems and to help the customer to find solutions to solve this problem. That means to develop action recommendations. But usually they do not deliver the solutions. But there are some areas where it's a bit different, for example, in the IT. And the idea, as I said, is they are developing actions for action recommendations in order to support the customer in solving problems himself, or improve his ability, the ability of the customer to solve problems independently. But frankly spoken, not every consultant or consulting companies really aims to this here, because of course they want to sell, they want to do some upselling in the future. They want to they want to find a place in the customers how can I say this? Probably already understand what I want to say. It doesn't. So it's a lot of sales work in the consulting business. It's not so easy like selling a bottle of water or something. Services or the sales of services always a bit more intense and long. In the long run, and so they want the customers to assign them frequently. And so maybe here we have to add a question mark. This is really the aim. But by the definition, by Lippold says it like this. Okay, a bit of history. So I will not go through every year, but what's quite important. So on this side, you see the market volume, and here the timeline. And consulting history starts in 1886. So there was this Arthur D. Little consulting group founded in Boston, and they started the consulting phase and the consulting industry. And as you can see, they followed a lot of consulting companies. Of course, it's not all of the companies, just some names you probably already heard. And like McKinsey, for example. What I learned when I thought over this slide is that McKinsey, actually he died, and when the company McKinsey and Company Consulting was founded in 1935, I think, he was already dead for 4 years. And a guy called Bauer, he followed up, and he really created this McKinsey Consulting Company because he brought in some other ideas, some different ideas than McKinsey himself. And Bauer just wanted to use the name of McKinsey. They were very close with A.T. Kearney, and already in 1945, Kienbaum was founded in Germany right after the World War II, and it was linked to the World War because they tried to help the companies to get up. And in the following years, there were other companies like BCG, Roland Berger, Capgemini, former Sogeti, and KPMG, and so on. What you can see here is also that the market volume increased, and that there was decreasing in the around the 90s, 2000, and that grew up again. And from the phases, it might be interesting. The initialization phase. In this phase, they did mostly consulting around engineering. So it was not finance consulting or something like more technical. And these activities were mostly local in Boston and Chicago, and mostly in the US. And then there followed a professionalization phase, which is, what's quite interesting is that during that times there was a prohibition of business consulting for commercial banks. They did it before, but then there was this prohibition, and so this was a good chance for the consulting industry. Of course, it gave it a boost. And so the consulting assignments number increased a lot, especially in large companies. We have to say, mostly in large companies, and it's still like that. That mostly large companies use a lot of consulting support. Afterwards, so after they created kind of a setup, a stable setup, the differentiation started, and they also went abroad. And in this time, from the 1960s on, with the BCG, right, they the focus was more and more on strategy consulting, and also, they created the former auditing and tax companies, and consulting companies. They created also the departments for IT consulting around in the 70s, let's say. And what also leads to the increase of consulting, the market volume in Germany or in Europe in general, was that the American management trends and styles reached Europe. It was not, except Kimon, it was not really common to hire consultants in Europe during that time. And this changed from the 60s on. And as I already said, there was a boom and an overheating phase. We got a hype and fell down. And after then, there was a regeneration and consolidation. And of course, there will be another decrease in 2020 and the following, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years, we don't know, due to the economic slowdown because of coronavirus. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate. So I will give you some more facts and figures that you get an idea about kind of numbers we are talking in consulting market. These numbers are from the website Statista, and they are pretty pretty actual at the moment. And what we don't see is the decreasing in 2008 and 2009. What we do see is an increasement, continuous increasement until last year. And what they already did, they slowed down their expectation for this year because of Corona. And what I added here is the definition of management consulting on Statista, because what you will see next are the numbers of the German market, and there's no fixed definition of what consulting is and what not. Yeah, there's let's say a smaller frame and a wider frame. What what counts as consulting work. So maybe the numbers doesn't seem to fit with each other. So what they say is that management consulting is helping organizations to improve their performance by analyzing problems and development plans for improvement. What I'm not sure about if, for example, IT development projects and so on are also included, or if it's more focused on strategy consulting and process organizational consulting. Yeah, you see here financial advisory, HR, internet technology, but it might be that they focus on the consulting aspects of these industries. So, but most important thing is that you see it's a big market and that it's growing. And what's also very interesting, what, for example, happened in Germany, that the market was growing so much faster than the economics. So here in Germany, you also cannot see the decreasing of 2008. Oh, yeah, you can see it here, minus 3.1 to 2008. So you see the decreasing. But from that time on, it was growing and growing and growing. In the year 2019, it was 35.7 billion, another increasement of 5.7%, a bit less than the last years, but still growing. And in the German market, we have about 20,400 consulting companies. They include bigger companies as well as single runners like freelancers. And we are talking about 128,000 consultants only in Germany. What I would like to know, and this will be just one single question of your self-study, is the numbers for Chinese consulting market. Maybe you will meet the same problems as me, that maybe these numbers and these numbers are not fitting together probably, because I cannot, let's say we are talking about 35.7 billion in Germany, and in 19 and 160, so dollars and euros is mostly the same, billions in the whole world. I cannot imagine that Germany is taking such a big part of this consulting area. So what I guess is that in these numbers, they did not count specific consulting areas, which they did count here in the German. So what I'd like to know is just some numbers to give us an idea about Chinese consulting market, about the growth and the numbers in the consulting market. I'm really interested in that, and I would love to hear some numbers and see some numbers by you. You can also put them into the Slack channel. I will add the question later. What's really interesting, and what you maybe notice already on the history slide, is that there was a slower market development in Europe, which has something to do with the market structure and also the characteristics of the European and German market, because they are focusing more on medium-sized companies and family business. And until today, these kind of companies do not spend that much, do not hire a lot of consultants. Okay, I think we will not be able to do this this breakout session, but maybe you can prepare a bit for the next time, for Monday. This is just a very brief overview of the areas of consulting defined by the German Consulting Association. So this is nothing defined in the academics, but I think it's a good way to separate the different areas. So it's the management and strategy area, organization and processes, IT and HR. And of course, in these areas, we do have specific sub-areas we will work on. And yeah, this is something we will do next week on Monday. So as always, what I'd like to have is a quick repetition of the consultant slides we already talked about. And on my list, it's today. So I try to do it my way. It is Liang and Li. So you both will be responsible to do a quick repetition. As I already mentioned, I will not give you a lot of self-study. I will add some papers in the Slack channel, which are accompanying your project work, and also some marketing aspects. But mostly it's about market entry, and maybe these papers will help you as well. But I will not ask specific questions on Monday. I think you have a lot to do. So the only task for self-study is some Chinese numbers, and the repetition of the consulting input will be done by Liang and Li. So that's all, I think. So we will just take a look at the Outlook as always, so you can see what I'm talking about. So the timeline will be relevant for the next status update. Take that timeline. That means, yeah. So I just want to have a brief update about your timeline and what you've done so far in terms of your project work. And as we already agreed on, Chen and I will work on the report template on Word, and we will do that in the last 30 minutes of the next lesson. So yeah, that's all for the project work. Repetition is this part. Definition, history, facts, and figures. So it's a brief repetition. And the self-study, as I already mentioned, some figures out of China, and you will find some additional papers. Any questions? Everything clear?
Yeah, so far so good.
Okay. Great. So we see each other on Monday at 12:30, 6:30. And yeah, I wish you a good and successful rest of the week, and yeah, see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you next time.